Today is not an ordinary day for Libra, and deep down, you may have felt that long before now, from the very first moment you slowed down, when your breathing became just a little deeper, when your heart felt as if it brushed against something strangely familiar and yet completely new. Not because something dramatic happened, not because the outside world suddenly shifted, but because inside you, a door had been quietly opening for a long time. And today, the light is finally clear enough for you to see it. Libra has always lived between points of balance. You are used to listening, understanding, adjusting, holding harmony in place for everyone around you. And because of that, you are often the last person on your own list of care. You can recognize someone else's sadness almost instantly, yet it can take you a long time to name what you are feeling yourself. Over the past few months, something has been building, slowly, silently, like a fine layer of dust settling on the inner scale you have worked so hard to keep steady. You are not here today by accident. You paused here because your soul is tired, not weak, just tired in the way someone becomes tired after walking too far without allowing themselves to rest. Maybe you've noticed the emptiness lately, the late nights filled with quiet thinking, that sadness that's hard to explain. Not really about a person, not tied to one specific event. Just the sense that something in your life has been waiting for a more honest explanation. The universe is never rushed, but it is never late. And Tuesday the 12th was chosen not to create chaos, but to bring clarity. Clarity about what needs to be released. Clarity about what has already completed its purpose in your life. This is not a loud moment. There are no collisions here, no crashing waves. It's more like a calm lake at dawn. When the water is still, you can finally see your own reflection clearly. You may not have words for it yet, but deep inside, you know you cannot continue living the same way. Not because that way was wrong, but because it no longer fits who you've become. You are deeper now, more honest with yourself. What once felt acceptable now feels heavy. What once kept you silent now keeps you awake. And this is not instability. This is inner maturity. This moment gently invites you back to yourself, not to judge, not to fix, just to listen, to the needs you've ignored, to the desires you postponed because you were afraid of disappointing others, to the exhaustion you've learned to call normal. And in that listening, there is a necessary tenderness, like placing a hand on your own shoulder and admitting quietly that you've been trying very hard for a long time. When you allow yourself to stay fully present with this moment, you begin to understand something important. Not every change has to begin with action. Some changes begin with truth. Truth about what you feel. Truth about what you no longer want to carry. Truth about the fact that you deserve a life that feels lighter, clearer, more honest. From that quiet acknowledgement, a very gentle movement begins. Like the moment before the sun fully rises, when you already know a new day is on its way. And in that stillness, something slowly comes to a close. Not to take anything from you, but to give something back. Space to breathe. Space to live. Space to walk forward with a heart that carries less weight. And when your heart feels just a little lighter, you begin to notice something quietly shifting. Some things in your life are no longer standing the way they used to. Not because you've become weaker, but because you've stopped forcing yourself to hold what was never meant to stay. It may be a relationship that once meant everything, one that made you believe if you sacrificed just a little more, things would finally work out. It may be a role you've played for too long, a responsibility, or an old belief you've carried out of habit, even though deep inside, you've known it no longer reflects who you are now. This ending doesn't arrive loudly. It doesn't slam the door. It comes softly. Sometimes as a silence that lingers longer than usual, a conversation that no longer finds common ground, or a clear inner knowing that you can't keep convincing yourself anymore. Some endings don't need goodbyes. They don't need announcements. They only require one thing, the courage to look straight at the truth. And when that moment arrives, your body understands before your mind does. A space opens in your chest, cool, light, as if you finally set down a suitcase you didn't realize you'd been carrying for so long. At first, the emptiness is unavoidable. Libra is used to keeping everything balanced, so when one side suddenly disappears, you may question yourself. Did I do something wrong? Did I miss an opportunity? Did I give up too soon? But if you stay with that feeling long enough, without rushing, to fill it with explanations or distractions, you begin to hear a different voice within you. A voice that doesn't blame, doesn't push. It simply confirms, gently, that this arrived at the right time. Some burdens only fall away when you're ready to open your hands, and some truths only appear when you are no longer afraid to see them. What is closing now is not taking anything from your life. It is ending a cycle that lasted longer than it needed to, a cycle of silent endurance, of placing your needs last, of hoping others would change while you slowly drifted away from yourself. In that moment, even with uncertainty still present, you feel a deep sense of rightness, not right by anyone else's standards, right by the rhythm of your own heart. It's as if your soul gives a quiet nod, recognizing that things are finally returning to their proper place. And that silent recognition opens a new kind of space, a space where you no longer have to prove anything, where you no longer need to keep playing an old role. This ending carries a quiet promise that from here on, you no longer have to live inside compromises that make you smaller, that you are allowed to move forward with greater honesty, even if the road ahead isn't fully visible yet. And in the final stillness of what is gently closed, a very soft wave moves through your inner world, a signal that when a door closes completely, truth has room to enter. And it is within that quiet space, when nothing is pulling you back toward what has already closed, that light begins to reach the places you once avoided looking at. Not a blinding light that overwhelms, but a gentle light, soft enough for you to open your eyes and remain with it. Truth arrives in its own way, without force, without judgment, simply by being present. And when you finally allow yourself to look directly at it, you realize you have known this for a long time. You just never gave it permission to be named. Some truths were hidden, beneath kindness, beneath patience, beneath the desire to keep the peace. You told yourself things would eventually work out, that if you tried a little harder, understood a little more, sacrificed just a little longer, everything would settle. But today, when you look back without the fog of old hope, you see clearly what drained you, what kept you silent for far too long. And this clarity does not wound you, it lightens you. Libra carries a natural sense of fairness, but this time, that fairness is no longer directed outward. It turns inward. You stop defending others by denying your own feelings. You stop calling endurance love. You stop calling silence peace. Instead, you allow yourself to acknowledge what happened exactly as it was. No softening, no rewriting to make it easier to accept, just the truth, bare and freeing. When truth is fully recognized, something unexpected happens. You no longer feel the urge to run or to resist. In its place comes a calm steadiness, as if, after a long time suspended between choices, both of your feet finally touch the ground. You may realize that someone could not walk with you any farther. You may understand that a belief which once supported you has become too narrow for who you are now. And within that understanding, there is no resentment, only mature acceptance. Truth now feels like a small key, resting perfectly in the palm of your hand. It makes no noise. It does not seek attention. Yet it fits exactly as it should. When you hold it, you feel the weight of freedom. Freedom from pretending you are fine. Freedom from holding balance for everyone except yourself. And that feeling draws a deeper breath from you, as if, for the first time in a long while, the air finally reaches the bottom of your lungs. There are moments when you suddenly understand that truth was never the enemy. It only felt frightening when you were not ready to grow alongside it. But today, you are steady enough to receive it. And within that steadiness, you begin to sense a very subtle movement, like underground water flowing beneath a still surface. No one sees it, but it is reshaping everything from within, clearing a path toward a lighter way of living, a way where you no longer have to strain to stay balanced, because balance has become who you are. And when truth has finally been placed where it belongs, no longer covered or distorted by fear, you begin to feel something very different spreading within you. Not excitement, not a rush that makes your heart race. It is a very gentle change, so gentle that if you are not still enough, you might miss it. Yet, it is this softness that carries a strength deeper than any shock ever could. You notice your breath becoming deeper without effort. Your shoulders slowly drop. Your jaw unclenches. And for the first time in a long while, your body sends a clear signal. You are safe. Miracles are often misunderstood as something external, something big, something dramatic enough to impress. But for Libra, this miracle arrives in a way that feels unmistakably right. It lives in the comfortable silence when you are alone and do not feel lonely. In falling asleep earlier than usual, without your thoughts spinning in endless circles. In looking at an old situation and realizing you no longer react the same way. There is no tension, no defensiveness, only a calm that comes from understanding and from letting go. Something has quietly shifted direction. The obstacles that once exhausted you seem to lose their weight, not because circumstances changed overnight, but because you no longer carry old energy into them. When you release the right things, the inner current naturally finds its way again. You do not need to push. You do not need to control. You do not need to prove that you are okay. Everything begins to move in a softer rhythm, like a river flowing freely after fallen branches have been removed from its path. Within that quiet movement, you may feel a decision forming clearly in your heart. Not a decision born from fear or pressure, but one rooted in a deep understanding of your own worth. A decision that needs no explanation, because you can already feel its truth, and that clarity brings a rare sense of grounding. As if, after a long period of feeling your way forward, you are finally standing on solid ground. What makes this moment truly beautiful is that you are no longer trying to become a better version of yourself in someone else's eyes. You are simply returning to who you truly are, someone who listens, who considers, and who also knows when to stop. Someone who understands that peace does not come from keeping everything balanced at all costs, but from respecting your own limits. And in that respect, you give yourself a deeply human gift, the right to live more gently. A miracle does not ask you to change your entire life in a single day. It only asks that you remain fully present with the truth you have just seen, and allow it to do its work. When you stop resisting, energy naturally rearranges itself. What no longer belongs gradually moves away. What resonates more deeply begins to draw closer. And even if you cannot yet name what is coming, you carry a quiet confidence that you are moving in the right direction. In that gentle stillness, it feels as though life itself is whispering to you that you do not need to rush. You do not need to tense your body against the future, and you do not need to return to places that made you forget who you are. Just continue forward with a lighter heart, with greater honesty, and you will notice doors opening in the most natural ways. In this state, peace is no longer something you search for. It becomes the space you live in with every breath. And within that quiet space, when all inner movement has stopped colliding, something familiar gently returns. Not a feeling of victory, not a brief sense of relief. It is a deep, steady peace. The kind of peace Libra once knew well, but quietly lost while trying to keep too many things balanced at the same time. It returns without noise, without announcement, simply present, like cool water flowing through the inner landscape, soothing the places that had grown dry. You begin to notice that you are no longer standing in the middle of two opposing sides, no longer pulled back and forth between what you want and what others expect. The questions that once looped endlessly in your mind begin to fade. Questions like, am I being selfish? Am I being too harsh? They disappear, not because you found perfect answers, but because you no longer need them. When you choose yourself, peace arrives naturally as a quiet result. This peace does not pull you away from the world. It brings you closer to it. You still care. You still love. You still listen. But you no longer trade your inner calm to keep everything intact. You understand now that true balance is not about pleasing every side. It is about keeping your heart from being torn apart. And when your heart is no longer stretched thin, you show up more fully in each moment of your life. You may notice this change in very small ways: the way you reply to a message without overthinking it, the way you say no without needing to explain yourself, the way you allow yourself to rest without guilt. These simple moments are the clearest signs that you have returned to your center, a center that is no longer shaken by every external influence. Inner peace carries a gentle clarity. You no longer need to appear strong. You no longer need to prove that you've overcome everything. You only need to be honest with what you feel right now. And in that honesty, you treat yourself with the same compassion you once reserved for others. You allow slow days. You allow moments of softness without calling them failure. Perhaps the most precious shift of all is that you are no longer afraid of silence. Silence is no longer an emptiness that must be filled. It becomes a safe place to rest. In that silence, you hear your heartbeat clearly. You hear your intuition whisper, and you realize you have always known what you need. It was simply drowned out by the noise of trying to please everyone else. Choosing yourself now no longer feels like a battle. It is gentle, yet certain, as if you've placed both hands on the scale of your life and adjusted it with deep respect for yourself. And once that scale returns to balance, you no longer watch it anxiously. You trust it. You trust yourself. In this state, there is no need to rush forward, no need to look back with regret. Everything that is past served its purpose. Everything that is present carries meaning. You are here, in this moment, with a calmer heart, clearer vision, and a quiet readiness for what is beginning to take shape ahead. Peace is no longer a destination. It becomes the foundation from which you live, love, and move forward in your own way. And when peace has settled deeply, enough that you no longer doubt yourself, you begin to sense something else taking place. Not an outer change, but the feeling that something inside you has finally closed the way it needed to. There are no invisible strings pulling you back into the past, no lingering urge to fix, to rescue, or to complete one more thing just to feel at ease. This cycle ends without heaviness, like a long breath finally released all the way. Some cycles in life do not end with goodbyes. They end with relief. You don't need to understand every reason. You don't need to untangle each knot with logic. You only need to feel that you are no longer bound to old stories. What once caused regret, what once made you wonder if you could have done things differently, now rests quietly behind you, not forgotten, but placed where it belongs in memory. You may recognize this completion through a very subtle shift. When you think of the past, your heart no longer tightens. When you remember a person, a situation, or an older version of yourself, your reaction softens, not because you've become cold, but because you have truly passed through. Every lesson has been received. Every emotion has been felt. Nothing remains unfinished. Libra only moves forward when balance is restored from within. And this time, that balance does not come from holding everything together. It comes from allowing what is already complete to close fully. You do not carry old energy into the next chapter. You do not carry emotional debt. You do not carry promises made when you were not yet honest with yourself. You walk lighter now because what you carry finally belongs to you. This completion holds a quiet maturity. There is no resentment, no prolonged regret, no sense of victory, only a deep acceptance that everything unfolded exactly as it needed to bring you here. Here, with this level of understanding, with this depth of clarity. And within that acceptance, you offer something rare, respect for the past and for yourself. When nothing remains unresolved, the mind grows quiet on its own. You no longer feel driven to prove that you were right or that you tried hard enough. You don't need recognition for your growth. You feel it in small reactions, in everyday choices. You know you will not repeat old patterns, not because you fear pain, but because you now understand the value of peace. There is a beautiful release in this moment, like closing a book after the final page. No explanation needed. You set it down with gratitude, because that story fulfilled its purpose. And when your hands are free, no longer holding what has ended, you realize you have space to receive something else. something more aligned with who you are becoming. In this quiet, you stand more firmly than ever, not because everything is perfect, but because nothing is pulling you backward. Your inner scale rests still, no constant adjustment required, and when everything has returned to its proper place, a natural feeling arises, as if life itself is waiting for you to continue, not rushing you, not pressuring you, simply opening a wide enough space for you to move forward with calm trust. And from that deep, steady stillness, a new movement begins to take shape. Not the kind that rushes you forward, not the feeling of being pushed. It feels more like a morning after a long night, when you wake up and the old dream no longer lingers. Everything is still there. The room feels familiar, but the way you exist within it has changed. You are clearer, more awake, and most importantly, you no longer doubt what you feel. Libra steps into this new state with a quiet strength. You don't need to prove that you've changed. The change speaks for itself in the smallest moments, in the way you listen to your intuition without dismissing it, in the way you make choices without asking too many outside voices, in the way you accept that not everyone will understand your path and how that no longer shakes you. A very quiet confidence begins to grow inside you, not blind belief, but trust built from experience, from the losses you survived, from the truths you faced, from the letting go you allowed. You know it wasn't easy to arrive here, and because of that, you honor this moment not by controlling it, but by being fully present within it. You start looking ahead, not with pressure to achieve something big right away, but with a healthy curiosity. Life is no longer a problem to solve. It becomes a journey allowed to unfold at its own pace. You give yourself permission to explore, to try, even to drift slightly off course, because you trust your ability to realign when needed. Your inner scale is no longer fragile. It is steady enough to move with the natural shifts of life. The miracle did not happen to overwhelm you. It happened to give something back. Your right to trust yourself, to trust that your feelings matter, to trust that your intuition is not weak, to trust that choosing truth, even when it is uncomfortable at first, always leads you to a lighter place. Within that trust, you stop feeling like you're fighting life. You begin walking with it. You come to understand that peace is not a reward for enduring long enough. It is the natural state that returns when you stop betraying yourself. When you live in alignment with what you value, the universe no longer needs to test your strength. Things begin to cooperate in quiet, ordinary ways. The right opportunities appear. More aligned connections find you. And what no longer belongs leaves on its own, without force. In this moment, you don't need to make grand promises about the future. Just hold on to this clarity, this steadiness, this honest connection with yourself. Every step you take from here, large or small, carries the awareness you've built, and that awareness is the most reliable compass you have. When you choose truth and peace, you are not standing alone. There is a wide, steady current supporting you. No display, no need for confirmation. You feel it in the way things fall into place, in the way you no longer struggle to belong. You are already where you need to be, right here, in your own life.